Hello, and welcome to my spoiler review for Mortal Kombat, a movie I enjoyed, despite its huge, glaring, obvious problems that a child could spot, much less a Hollywood producer or studio executive, but for some reason did not. So first, I'm going to talk about the things that I really liked about the movie, and then I'm going to rant about the stuff that has no business being here. And interestingly, it's about a 50-50 split. So this movie has that going for it. So what did I enjoy? Oh, I loved that Johnny Cage tease. I always tell you that it's important for a movie to end on a high note. And the tease of Johnny Cage being right around the corner in the sequel was a mighty high-end note to end on, in my opinion. I'm a huge Johnny Cage fan. You know, a lot of what makes Mortal Kombat work, everybody seems to think sometimes it's just the gore. But I think humor, I've been covering like the last game, and I think humor is a big part of why Mortal Kombat is so successful. And that's one thing that this movie, I think, got right and understood, at least some of the time. And so I think, it deserves credit for that. And the Johnny Cage stuff was just perfect. I didn't like that it was Cole Young going to Hollywood. I was like, clearly something should come up and someone else will have to go in his place. But I like them, the ref was like, that jerky ref was like, oh, where are you headed off to? And Cole Young goes, Hollywood. And I'm like, oh, he's going to get Johnny Cage. And then they panned to that great poster, which is so cheesy, just perfect for Johnny Cage. I mean, just so many good jokes. They open up the door for so many great Hollywood jokes. I mean, and those are like some of my favorite jokes, as you know. It made me so excited for a sequel. I was like, we need a sequel. And I think, many people have said, well, why do you have Cole Young in here instead of Johnny Cage as the introductory character? I mean, all the characters were learning about Mortal Kombat for the first time. There was no reason to have Cole Young here. I don't know if this movie, I think it's fine to save Johnny Cage for the sequel. They could have a lot of fun sequel jokes. I mean, I think it's fine the way it worked out. I thought the Johnny Cage tease ended up being a really strong way to end the movie, and they, of course, couldn't have done that if he had been actually in the film. So I was fine with how it worked out. And I'm glad they didn't have him in this movie, because that means they don't have to cast him just yet. I'm glad they didn't cast him for the tease. It was just the poster. It was just his belt buckle, which with Johnny Cage, that's sometimes all you need. Hopefully this movie will do well enough they can get a solid name. It could be like a C-level name. I don't care. Just somebody it's fun. And if someone will have fun with the role, I think it could be a really great opportunity. And the fact that they got the ending, the tease, just so perfect gives me confidence in realizing the character. Because some of the characters here worked out very well. So I also loved Reptile versus Kano. What a fight. Reptile was incredible. The idea to make him this Komodo dragon, like this, Reptile has always had like a lizard type look to him in some of the most recent incarnations, from what I can tell. But he's never gone like almost full Komodo dragon before. He was like more Komodo dragon than man. And I thought that was super cool. I mean, did everybody just see the video recently of that Komodo dragon or Komodo type dragon lizard crawling up the side of in a drugstore? This was like that. So it was so cool. And I loved the way the character moved. I loved all the stuff he had with his power set, the acid saliva, the big lizard tongue, the invisibility. At first I was like, that seems like too much. But it was so well done that I was like, no, it's great. I'll allow it. And it was so great. It was a great fight. And that, by the way, Reptile was the only time during this movie where I was like, okay, maybe the game should take from the movie from this thing. And if the movie was doing its job, that should have happened more than once. So I really liked Reptile. And then I thought Kano was a great opponent. I loved that he kept getting hit with knives and one was hit, one went right in his leg. I thought that was a funny gag. I liked when he took out the heart and was like, Kano wins, like the game. And then I liked that he was illustrating his own comic book afterwards. I mean, this stuff to me just worked. I liked when he said, all your beer's crap and you're almost out of it. I mean, I was eating this stuff up. It was very strong choices, but I thought that it worked. It was just so fully committed. And it was, as I said, the best scene in the movie in my non-spoiler review. It had the violence, it had the fighting, it had the humor, it had like the cool, like supernatural stuff that you want. It had some of the mythology from the games. It just had everything. And it added to it. It was just great. Now, as for Kano, I I liked his jokes. I mean, sometimes they were like, wah, wah. Like, Kano made a lot of dad jokes, but I didn't care. I thought they were funny. I liked when he called Raiden Gandalf. I was like, well, I see it. And when he told Liu Kang to put a shirt on and he called him Magic Mike, that was good stuff in my opinion. I was like, it's pretty funny. And like, I think some of the stuff might have been added in post because he would mutter it from a wide shot. And I was like, that was a great addition to this scene. I really appreciated it. I mean, it's funny. I liked it. I would have preferred to keep him an anti-hero instead. I mean, I know in the game he's a full-on villain, but I liked him being kind of like the Loki of the group. I didn't think he should have gone. I thought it was a waste of a character to make him go full villain. I was enjoying him very much. I loved when he said, I knew I'd get my powers before all of you at the end of the dinner scene. Like, he was able, he had a positive attitude. I'll give Kano that. He was so angry and he lost his temper, but then he got his Arcana and he had the laser beam shoot out. And I thought it was so funny. I just thought he was great. I loved it. I liked that whole dinner scene. I thought the dynamic between everyone was great. The food looked good. Now, speaking of dinner, what are you making for dinner tonight? How would you like to make a great meal for less money than it costs to eat out and even less money than when shopping at most grocery stores? Well, then you should give HelloFresh a try. How much time do you waste planning what to eat for dinner and then having to figure out how to make it and make it? Well, with HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit, you plan your meals in advance. They come neatly packaged with just the right amount of ingredients, so you're all ready to go. You take one out when you're ready to eat it, and each one takes about 30 minutes or less to make. That's it. So tonight, in 30 minutes or less, you could be having, and you have the joy of having made it yourself. You could be having Szechuan pork and green bean stir fry. You could go all veggie with a mighty mushroom tortilla melt with apple salad. Oh, that's creative. I like that. And then how about the blue corn tortilla skillet? You could eat it right out of the skillet. I had a lot of fun making that one. That was fun. So just go to HelloFresh.com/BTT12 and use code BTT12 for 12 free meals, including free shipping. Again, that's go to HelloFresh.com/BTT12, link down below, and use code BTT12 for 12 free meals, including free shipping. All right, now back to what else I liked. Now, they had a bit of a mythology change, I felt. They introduced this idea of an Arcana. Is this from the games? I don't think it's from the games. And that the Mortal Kombat logo is a birthmark, or at least your invitation to the tournament. And from the trailers, we were like, yeah, birthmark means you were born with it. But they changed it up in the trailer because Jax knew what he was asking about, and he didn't know that one could ever be a birthmark that was unique to Cole Young. And so he was just trying to ask questions that in some cases he knew the answers to because he was doing detective work. So I felt in that case, the trailer actually shortchanged the scene. I was like, it wasn't that bad actually. But anyway, this idea that, well, first let's talk about the Mortal Kombat symbol, that you could steal it through killing to enter the competition. I liked the way it would go from one person to another. And I liked the story about Jax killing this person they'd never come across before, who was like this supernatural being. And then I was like, I would have liked to have seen that, the shock of when the symbol transferred to him. Like, what? I mean, I guess, you're the winner. So that's to the winner go the skin mark, right? The spoils. I wish there was a way you could gift it though. Kind of like the friendship way of passing it on. I hope that maybe they come up with that for the sequel. And although clearly no one dies here, when Shang Tsung was like, I'll be back with my combatants. And I'm like, well, can the good guys come back too then? Because there are a couple of good guys I'd like to resurrect. So anyway, that was kind of cool. I liked that. And then the Arcana was very Joseph Campbell-y, so I can see why they added it, that you would get this special additional ability to your fighting skills, although I don't think anyone in this movie had particularly good fighting skills, but everyone had a unique Arcana that would come to them when they got real mad. I wish they had defined a little bit better what would make your Arcana come about, and I wish that it was something a little bit better than just being super angry. Something that was a little bit more maybe with your chi or something like that. But it was fine. I mean, I liked it. I was like, I wonder what my Arcana would be. And that's the whole point of doing it that way. Then I really also liked the opening scene. The flowers were beautiful. Scorpion's wife and he and his wife were fantastic landscapers. I was like, this is a nice cottage in the woods. It was beautiful. It was really nice. And so that contrasted, as I said in my non-spoiler review, very nicely with the way Sub-Zero comes and kills Scorpion's whole family. I mean, I felt Scorpion's pain, and I felt Sub-Zero's hate, and that's a real credit to both the actors. And I liked, again, playing off, one was Chinese and one was Japanese. And so that was kind of playing into their hatred of one another. I would have liked to have known more about their origins, though. Like, why did Scorpion go straight to hell? How did Sub-Zero already have powers? And yet he still was not, at that point, Sub-Zero. I would like to know this stuff, but still, I like the idea that the baby lived. I don't know why there wasn't enough room for both of her children down there, but there wasn't. So just the baby lived, and then you hear the babies cry, and Raiden comes and gets the baby. It had a little bit of a Disney quality to it. I thought it was good. And I liked the idea of the bloodline. I don't know why it took so long to get to the bloodline. We'll talk about the story problems a little bit later, but I liked the general idea of it. I didn't like that Cole Young was the recipient of Scorpion's bloodline, but I did like his daughter quite a bit. I thought she was really likable. They had Scorpion color-themed bracelets. I was like, oh, your family colors, instinctually. And I just thought she was great. I thought she was very likable. I was like, can she train? Can we just replace Cole Young right away with her? I liked that. I liked the idea. And I'm like, does Sub-Zero have any family members? This could be interesting. Now, speaking of Sub-Zero, I thought his powers were really gorgeous. I said he was very Frozen in my non-spoiler review, and they had those elements here. I liked that when Cole Young's daughter was outside at the burger place, and it started to snow, and it seemed so idyllic, but really we knew something bad was going to happen. I thought that was like such a cool way to have Sub-Zero make an entrance. It was just really a nice touch. I thought it was great. I liked all of the scenes with Sub-Zero's powers. I thought they were really, really cool. Very well realized, like when he was in the alley and he walked away. I don't know why Jax wasn't like, awesome, I won this fight by default. I don't know why he followed him in there, maybe because he was afraid he'd keep going after Cole Young's family. But that was a cool scene when they had all the ice smoke and then Sub-Zero disappeared. I thought that was great. And I just like the VFX a lot in general. I like all the Sub-Zero stuff again. I thought Raiden's lightning powers were cool. I like the way people disappeared into the lightning to teleport. Like you would kind of go into the lightning like beams, and like you would like kind of disappear into them, and it created a feeling of depth. I thought that was really cool. I like Shang Tsung's taking Kung Lao's soul. I was like, he took a soul all right, and I would have preferred an even better shot of Kung Lao's poor shriveled face. That was like really cool. Like it was supposed to be really scary, and they did a good job with it. I thought Kung Lao, when he first popped out of his hat, I fell in love with the character right then and there. It was great. It was so funny. I loved that. I wish he had done that more, actually. To me, that was more endearing than when he cut Nitara in half with it as a blade saw. I was like, that's cool. And I loved Jax's arm evolution. They were like these tiny little T-Rex arms at first. I was like, what do you think he's going to do with those? But then I thought it was cool when, he had that moment. He wasn't angry there either, so I don't know how that worked. But when his Arcana kicked in and his arms grew to be really cool, and he used them really well in his fight, that was, I thought, a very good Mortal Kombat-y fight. And he squashed that guy's head with his hands, and he's like, I can work with this. I thought that was really cool. And McCad Brooks did a great job. I think Jax was also something I really liked. Jax is really a funny character because every time I did the same thing when I watched the recent animated movie. Whenever you see Jax with arms, you're like, okay, how's he going to lose them? And they did the same thing here. It was funny. But I liked the character. I thought he was a good representation for the military. I thought he was really cool. All right, now what I did not care for. I'm sorry, but I really disliked Louis Tan's Cole Young. I mean, he clearly shouldn't be in the movie. Again, the actor and the character. Louis Tan just cannot act. And I felt that he didn't even come off as a particularly good fighter here. And that's the whole reason to cast him, because of his stunt background, stunt work background. Just was very bad. And I thought that his Arcana, that stupid suit that he got, it was like a Swiss Army knife suit. It didn't make any sense. At first I was like, okay, so you're a bishop from the X-Men ripoff. You absorb kinetic energy and then you can expel it. Fine. But then he had a blade and a baton, and I'm like, how does this work? You got more than one Arcana? I thought it seemed like cheating. I was not happy with it. And it's not compelling. I think when you see someone's Arcana, you should, for the most part, be like, I'd like to have that one. I don't think anybody would want Cole Young's. It seemed like he was an action figure, and that suit was just like some stupid thing that snapped onto him, like not well. I was like, just give me more Scorpion. Why am I stuck with this? And they never even got a chance to relate as relatives. I thought that was weird. They didn't even have one scene together where they had that. And then Jessica McNamee as Sonya Blade was also a really bad actress. And I didn't like what they did with her. They Karen'd Sonya Blade. She was constantly complaining and she was a wet blanket. I don't like when they do that with female characters. They did the same thing with Wasp in Ant-Man and the Wasp, that movie. I don't like it when women characters are the moms and they don't want to have fun like everybody else. And that's very much what Sonya Blade was here. I hated that. Also, her Arcana was ridiculous. It didn't fit with Blades. It didn't fit with anything about the character. It just seemed like really sloppy. They're like, oh, and you can blast purple things. I was like, Shang-Chi's gonna do that. I mean, I didn't match her character at all, I felt. I didn't feel like it came from her, so I didn't like it. Also, the Sub-Zero and Scorpion suits, they just looked too big and rubbery, and the actors clearly did not want to wear them. And they kept taking their masks off to talk. I was like, what? And they kept doing it multiple times. They'd be like, oh, okay, let me tell you this. Put it back on. Oh, but wait, I forgot to tell you one other thing. And you're like, just keep it off or keep it on, man. Also, why didn't the mask just dissolve away? I mean, they were supposed to be these fantasy characters, and yet they had clearly rubber masks on that they had to manually take on and off. I'm like, have it dissolve, and then you can talk, and then it goes back. I just didn't like that. And then speaking of waists, Mileena. I mean, her mouth only opened up at the very end, and it wasn't that cool. I mean, and she died really fast for Mileena. Although, again, Shang Tsung was like, no one here really dies. But to take such a truly unique character and make her just nothing, I just can't believe that they did that. It was so odd. She didn't even wear pink and purple. On that note, Shang Tsung also. I mean, I think Raiden didn't really register, but Shang Tsung is so famous for Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa's performance in the original movie, and he recently just came back for the game. And he's just so good. Shin-Han should, I mean, Shin-Han, they didn't do him any favors by having him in this movie. He just was it was just a very sad version of Shang Tsung. You're like, really? This is Shang Tsung? The other guy's available, and he still likes to do this character. What? So that was not good. And then the story, I mean, we just never got to the fights, which is an odd choice for a movie about a game about fighting. And then they seemed to be that this wanted to be more about Scorpion's bloodline, and maybe it was setting up the big championship for the sequel, which again, you should never do. Never count on what you might do tomorrow because you might not be able to. But then, the Scorpion bloodline, they didn't even do very much with that, I felt. I mean, it was disappointing that it was Louis Tan, so it didn't pop. You weren't like, this is a cool successor to Scorpion. You were like, they really watered down the bloodline, huh? They didn't even talk about the daughter being the next in line. And why didn't she have the same birthmark then? I was like, whoa, shouldn't she have the birthmark? So that was odd. I mean, it was just sitting there and they never did anything with it. And then also, why did it take so long for the Scorpion bloodline to come back? And again, because it was Louis Tan, you weren't like, they couldn't sell you on like this was the guy. So you were like, what about all the other generations? Why is this only coming up now? So that was weird. But anyway, that's what I liked and that's what I didn't like. And I'm very curious to hear what you liked and didn't like down below. And also, would you want a sequel? I still would want a sequel. I want my Johnny Cage sequel. And again, as I said in my non-spoiler review, I'd just get rid of half of the cast. And I'd get new writer and new director, and I'd bring in David Leitch and Chad Stahelski. But I'm curious, who would you keep for the sequel and who would you get rid of, in front of and behind the camera? All right, so again, share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.